What is happening, everybody? I hope you've had a good...
Back in like 2005, something like that.
I think my first con was so good. It's Friday Junior.
It's Friday Junior. It's podcast day. It's payday.
And if you come out, do it electrically. Doesn't matter how you feel about the situation.
My name is Raff. We're always start the podcast because we just want to talk about it. We'll talk about music and just share those stories and experience. This is my co-host, Kyle, a.k.a. the BeerBuddy. He is hailing you.
This sort of weird era where they're sort of right in that post-grunge.
Look, you're fighting the good fight in today's world. My war was fought 40 years ago, really.
We are the two dudes who talk music, and we are here. Hey, I'm too quick on that air horn button, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, that is amazing. I love every second of it, dude. Fantastic.
What is going on, everybody? I am the Reverend Raff, by my good friend Kyle on this side.
How you going, everyone?
A.k.a. the BeerBuddy. We are the two dudes who talk music, and it is Thursday, Friday Junior. It is time for another podcast episode.
It is.
I'm a little frazzled at the moment, but I'm getting there. Yeah, how you doing, mate? How you doing?
Man, I'm good. Just did Steel Assassins on the weekend, so probably there's content out for that already, probably by the time this comes out. So go back and watch that if you haven't watched it already. But that was cool, man.
Yeah.
A lot of glammy rock metal bands. It was different for me, but it was, tell you what, it was a vibe. Never seen so many battle jackets in one place in my life.
Yeah, man. It's look, those kind of events go pretty good, and like Dave has a lot of support from everybody in the scene. So of course, people go out to a lot of people come out to his events. They know they're in for a good time, and that he tends to put on some good shows. So yeah, that's sick, man. That's sick.
How are you doing?
I'm having a bit of an issue with one of my basses at the moment. It's my Ernie Ball Music Man Stingray is playing up a little bit. Not exactly sure what's going on. It's not giving me any signal. I've done all the usual shit, replaced the batteries, tried different cables, plugged it into different things, whatever. It seems to be just completely dead on the output there. So I don't know what's going on. But
soldering issue, bit of cables come loose or something.
I don't know, man. Like I would have thought for something the quality of an Ernie Ball Stingray, it was especially for what I paid for it, that I wouldn't have issues after only 2 years. But, I guess we'll see. It's not under warranty anymore, unfortunately, but I'm going to take it down
matter,
to
man.
the...
Send him an email. Send him an email. They might have some advice.
I'm going to take it down to the repair place this weekend, get the guy to have a look at it, see if he can figure out what's going on and get a quote for a repair. It's fine. These things happen, Even the best places can have something slip through the net. So, yeah, look, it's a little frustrating, but I've got workarounds. I've got, you've got other bases I can use if I need to, so it's fine, gets me by on that. But yeah, man, look, I'm pretty hyped. Like we had just had our interview drop our episodes drop last week with Aaron from Gemini Syndrome, which was great. I mean, I can't express my thanks enough. Like he was so open and honest with us about everything, which is crazy. Like I always appreciate when people are so forthright about things like that.
Makes you feel pretty good when they get comfortable enough around you to open up like that as well.
Yeah, man.
Makes you feel like you're doing your job properly.
And that's it. Like that's our job. Our job is to just help people be comfortable enough to talk about their experiences and share that with the rest of the world. So all the much love and appreciation to Aaron. Like great to chat, and hopefully we can have him on soon when there's more stuff going on in their camp, and he can talk about whatever that fourth Gemini Syndrome album and get some cool stuff going. But yeah, man, look, I'm excited though. We got coming up towards the end of the year. We're gonna have our live stream, usual live stream, and that's probably going to be between Christmas and New Year. So keep an eye out for details on that one coming out. And as we go into 2025, we're going to have our new series launching, Rockin' Around the World, which is going to be lots and lots of fun. For those who maybe haven't heard about it, we're going to be doing it's new series, Rockin' Around the World, where we basically hit a randomizer and it gives us a metal band from somewhere in the world. And the aim is to find, metal bands from outside of our usual sphere, from backgrounds that we're maybe a bit less familiar with, from countries that we're not as familiar with what the metal scene's like there. We started getting some episodes together for it already, and it's looking quite good. It's a nice little variety there, and we're going to try and just drop that every week. So it's going to be a little bit of a twist on our usual reactions thing, but it also means you guys are going to be getting 6 videos a week.
Yeah, you guys are going to be getting this all the time.
So, it's pretty crazy. So the regular schedule for the week, for those who care, is going to be probably a reaction on Monday. Tuesdays, probably nothing at the moment, or nothing regular anyway. We'll use Tuesdays as our free day. Wednesdays will be Rockin' Around the World. Thursdays is going to be podcast. Fridays is going to be another reaction video. And then Saturday and Sunday we'll have the usual quick question quarter and get in the bin. Or if it's a repeat guest on the podcast that's already been on before, we'll drop another lot of the classic
those are always
classic
good.
Get in the Bin and quick question quarter episodes that we're sort of trying to isolate from their original podcast episodes back when they used to all be one and the same. So
you can see the amount of growth in those things.
You can. Please, don't judge us by the quality of those ones.
They're old.
That's probably what next year's going to be looking like, which is quite good. Just a little reminder for everyone: if you do like our content, if you do enjoy it, you can get it ad-free and early. If you want to hop over to our Patreon, we've got a link down in the description. It's only like $2 Australian a month, so it's really next to nothing. And you get them, like I said, early and ad-free. We're looking at more ways to add value there. So if you're in the Patreon, hello.
Hey.
If you've considered the Patreon, but you want something with a bit more value, let us know in the comments. What sort of content you like to see in a Patreon. What sort of content makes you interested in subscribing, and it might entice you to sign up for that one. It's primarily just because, as I said, 6 videos a week. It's essentially another full business day's work between planning and filming and editing and uploading and doing all of the stuff that comes along with it in terms of descriptions and social media posts and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay, we run ads, but we don't make a whole bunch of money off of that. It's very,
and
very
if
small.
anyone thinking that we're making money off those reactions, we make absolutely
Bingo.
zero. Every single bit of money goes back to the original creator, and that's the way we like it.
Yeah, exactly. Like the reactions is just a fun sort of extra bit of content for us to engage with you guys. We generally, those are as Kyle said, the money from those, almost entirely goes to the artists. I think, unless it's a very, very rare circumstance that
record
that's
company,
not the case.
whoever's published the original video, basically goes back to them.
Exactly. And, sometimes we can't even put the actual video on there because that gets the whole thing, like the video can't even be viewed if that's there. So, but if you want to get them, like I said, if there's ever any of those censored ones on there or ones where we have to cover the actual video, original ones are up on the Patreon. And again, like I said, if there's anything that you can think of, any ways that, you like to sort of, anything you like to see from Patreon pages that you're involved with or you would consider being involved with, let us know, because we always want to look for new ways to make that more enticing for you guys and just engage better with you guys and give you the content that you want. But yeah, look, that's kind of, looking forward to next year. But for now, for this week, we got some rad dudes, some rad lads that we met out at Metal to the Max a few weeks back. They are rad dudes from Radelaide.
Oh yeah.
We got Timmy and Brendan from Those Left Behind. They're one of the bands that played at Metal to the Max. If you would have seen a brief interview that we had with them up on the channel already and some footage of their set, but we decided, we really enjoyed talking with those guys and we wanted to get them back on. So for a bit more of a lengthy sit down. So we're going to be jumping into our interview with them in a moment. And yeah, like I said, please, if you could consider maybe checking out that Patreon there, if that's something that interests you. If not, thank you very much for watching anyway, and you can hopefully enjoy this interview with the boys from Those Left Behind. Welcome, Timmy and Brandon from Those Left Behind. How you doing today, gents?
Doing well, lads. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, doing all right.
Good. Good. Yeah,
It's better than what I expected after yesterday.
better. You were
Yeah, well, it
froth and
looks like
fury
you're on the hair of the
yesterday.
dog, mate.
How was the show yesterday? How was Froth and Fury?
Oh, no.
Mate, it was
Yeah.
absolutely insane. Like, Northie is just absolutely just swung for the fence on that one. Man, like, seeing some bands that, from when you were growing up, like Fear Factory, just absolutely dominating. Seeing the Test Eagles as well. Like, I think Timmy dragged me to one of their gigs when I was probably 12 or 13 or something like that. And yeah, just absolutely annoying seeing DOC as well, Day of Contempt's like reunion show. Mate, it was just absolutely just insane. Insane.
Big pulls on that one, man.
Yeah, dude, they
Oh,
didn't miss a beat, hey.
And what do you think of the new Fear Factory singer?
nah, that's
Well, I mean,
look,
Burton C. Bells,
he
man,
did
like he
really
isn't.
job with Burton.
Oh,
Oh, the audio's cutting.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, like, Burton C.
Hello?
Bells was just an absolute assassin. So, like, I mean, the big shoes to fill. However, tonally, sonically, stage-wise, man, he just, yeah, dude, he was the, he filled the part, man. He was great. He just, they played all the old
He did
stuff.
an absolutely cracking job.
Yeah, that's
well,
so
I mean, I caught him in. I caught them last year when I was in the US, and I think that was in sort of the first round of shows he was doing with them. It was only a few months after they'd announced who it was going to be that was going to be the new singer. And yeah, I think from a sound perspective, you couldn't get anyone better. I don't think. Oh, it looks like Timmy will be back with us in a sec.
He'll be back. Yep.
But yeah, I think from the sound that he's bringing to the table, I don't think you could get anyone better without it being Burton himself. I think that when I saw them, at least, he still felt a little uneasy with the performance side of it. He still felt like he was a little. A little bit of trepidation, a little bit of like, oh, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing yet for the performance side of it, but the actual, the level of the vocals that he was bringing, could not fault it. He was doing an incredible job with that. So,
Yeah, dude. I mean, he must have come a long way because, man, he was an absolute monster up there, just a force to be reckoned with. Like, it was just absolutely insane. But how good's this? Because they ran ran a drum clinic with Webb and also a guitar clinic with Dino in Adelaide on the Thursday and on the Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned up to the drum clinic and actually sang along.
That's pretty cool.
Wow.
Dude, come on. And like, he was there also because I went to the Dino guitar clinic and he was there at that one. And I was just like, oh, come on, man. Just grab the mic. This is going to be sick. But unfortunately he didn't. But yeah, dude, he was just hanging out, just meeting people, shaking hands, kissing babies, man. It was just freaking awesome.
It's bad.
He must be having the time of his life.
That's the big thing. I mean, you got to think, like you said, big shoes to fill. Like they're so iconic and span now over now that you can honestly say, they're our kissing babies. They're a generational band now. Like my kids have listened to Fear Factory. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things now. But now he's filled those shoes, getting the validation from the fans. That would pump up your ego so much for when you go on stage. You know what I mean? It probably just once you get off stage and someone goes up to you and goes, "Man, move around more. You're killing this shit. Just do it."
Yeah. Yeah, dude. And like, I love
definitely
Burton.
You go, Timmy?
But he did an amazing job. He really did.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad. He's doing a great job with them, and I think I feel like they've kind of got the right guy for it. Because if you got someone else that was kind of already well known, it was going to be weird because they were going to be like, well, do I do my own thing or do I do try and do the Burton thing? Whereas bringing in someone like this who's, I'm not going to say unknown because my understanding is he was doing he was kind of a bit up there on YouTube, doing a lot of vocal covers and stuff. And Fear Factory was one of the bands that he did a lot of covers of online. So it's, it's not like it's a nobody necessarily, but it's someone who has the chops to do that material the way the fans expect it to be done. So he can step into those step into those shoes and do a great job with it. And sounds like he's kind of really coming into his own in terms of performance and owning the stage space and commanding the crowd, which is good. Because I guess, if a lot of his if most of his exposure has been on YouTube previously, you don't have that sort of immediate engagement with the crowd the same way that you do in a live context. So, kind of stepping out on those big stages with a band he's probably idolized for most of his life. It's going to be very daunting. So I'm glad he's really settling into the role.
Like, you can definitely tell. Like, he's definitely idolized Burton for his whole life. Like, not just vocally and sonically, but even down to the hair that he was sporting at Froth and Fury was very similar to Burton at Big Day Out. I think it was 2001. I reckon. Oh, it might have even been earlier than that, actually. But yeah, it was, he had the little dye patch in the section here with the side fringe going on, and it was like, oh yeah, I've seen this before.
Well,
and, being that they did an old school set with nothing past Digimortal play, it was actually quite fitting because it had that feel and vibe to it, that classic feel and vibe to it as well.
Well, that kind of, almost brings up the question of when does it become cosplaying? When does it become like that he's, and look, maybe this is the way that Dino wants to do it. Maybe Dino's like, look, we just want someone who has the chops and sounds like Burton to do the material so that it sounds as true to what the fans are going to remember. Maybe that's the discussions they had. I don't know. But it kind of does raise that question then of like, does it, if does it matter that it's him, or could it be anyone that happens to sound like Burton? Which
or is it a pot shot of Burton?
And I'm not saying that
after the track that song came out.
And I'm not saying that as a criticism necessarily. I'm just saying it's an interesting topic to discuss. I think it kind of
isn't it just like
what was that?
Sorry, go on, Timmy.
So say that again, Tim.
No, look, it'd be very interesting to ask Trevor himself that, because I'm pretty sure he would give you a straight answer too.
Yeah.
One thing about Dino is he doesn't shy away from hard questions.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't seem like that type of guy.
He could.
It sort of falls into.
I think it could actually be very much what he's done for.
Yeah.
That.
Well, it kind of almost falls into my mind, like it falls into similar territory, I think, to the Pantera reunion, really, because like you've got, granted, it's not necessarily a case of the original members having passed away, but you've got this lineup that is realistically controlled by like one member of the original lineup. And I know, yes, Rex obviously played for the Pantera thing as well, but Rex is kind of, I get the sense Rex just kind of doesn't really care one way or the other. He's just kind of a bit like, oh yeah, we're doing it. All right, cool. But how it's been interesting to see, I guess, the fans' reaction to what is happening with Fear Factory versus what's happening with Pantera when they are in some ways similar situations.
Yeah, it's interesting, that one, isn't it? Because you got to wonder. Obviously, they've got to pay homage to their pasts. Is it, what they want? Is it a bit of a gradual sort of thing, like get a few records underneath your belt and show us as like we're going to evolve? But then again, like it's, this is Fear Factory. This is what our fans, there's a level of expectation. But then a big thing from what Dino was saying is he was talking about like he doesn't want to stagnate. Like he always wants to sort of progress. But yeah, talk about a tough call. And then I would imagine there's also other people in the background as well who was having their own says, because he did say that like back in the day there was a record label who was like, no, we want you to do a little bit more pop. We want you to do a bit more this. So man, when you think about it, when you get to that sort of level, how many other people influence like what you're actually doing? Like it's a crazy question, isn't it?
It's
Well,
tough.
especially with the contract that you sign too. Like, do you sign in to have that outside a producer? Okay, when you sign this contract to work with us, we give you a producer, and they're going to steer you in the right direction to make sure we get the right product that we want.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, I guess this, sort of shows my age. Like, you have to, on an album, you have to produce 4 singles, and they have to like hit the radio if you're going to elevate to that sort of next level. And it would be, you always hear about the record label just being like, "Where's my single? Where's the hook? Where's the hook?" How many bands can actually release like, a album that you can listen to from start to finish, there's I've definitely got a few in mind and a few that have massively influenced me over the journey. But then, yeah, you do have those ones, and you're just like, "Whoa, this song could have made the cutting room floor." But then their singles are just absolutely phenomenal.
Well, look,
It carries the rest of it.
we had basically this exact conversation with Aaron from Gemini Syndrome last week. He was saying like they had their first album, and then the second album came around, and they kind of were getting pushed to do a bit more like. There's a couple of songs on the first album that had some success. So come the second album, the label was like, we need another one of those. We need another one of those. We need the songs to be more like that. And they kind of had to kowtow to that to get, the labels off their back and release some more, I guess, radio friendly or chart friendly stuff rather than staying true to what they wanted to do necessarily. Which is, it's exactly what you're talking about. And I guess it's the struggle, right? Like how, because if you look, the labels usually have a thing that says, cool, like we don't have to release this album if we don't like it, if we don't want to. And so they can sit on it, and it's just becomes, and this is one of the reasons that so many people are just trying to stick to, all right, do we do it? Do they just stick to doing it independently these days? Do they want to just continue that drive? And because now that streaming platforms are accessible for you to get your own stuff out there like that, it more comes down to, what do you need the label for? Well, you need them to fund higher quality production and also promotion, because they've got all the connections and stuff, right? So they can get it into the hands of people that will help get it out there, and they push it on playlists and all this other stuff. But it's, it just becomes like it's such a different landscape to what it was even 10 years ago. To the way, the importance of labels and the different parts of the machine, how they all operate, which is, and it just makes it even harder for metal, because a lot of metal bands and a lot of metalheads have a very old school traditional mentality about this kind of stuff. And, do we want to do it the old school way and look at doing it that way and trying to get a label signed on a label and do all that? Or is that model irrelevant, and now it's focusing on doing, singles or like shorter groups of collections of songs, smaller collections of songs, rather than trying to do a whole album all at once? It's
do you spend the $5,000 that you spend on an EP and buy your own gear and try and learn how to do it yourself and bring out quality so you can just keep pumping out songs like a fucking just like a machine?
So,
you know what I mean? And that's what some people are doing.
Yeah, man. Like I 100% agree with
today's
you
landscape.
on that case. Like, I mean, and this is also thing about what you guys are doing as well. Like the fact that there is a entire movement now. Like technology, like you can get a VST plugin and what's a one knob solution that's ready mixed, and it sounds killer. Like, yeah, okay, an aficionado may not be able to tell the different, like, will be able to pick it out. However, it sounds absolutely killer to my ears. It's mix ready and it's releasable compared to back in, I remember some of the, EPs that were releasing back in the early 2000s, and they were just like sonically, they just weren't any good. And then also, what is it, man? Like, it's about getting the music and your music out to as many ears as what you possibly can. And that's where awesome things like, your guys' podcast is, you're giving us, a band an opportunity to come and speak to you and speak to your audience and just have a bit of a chat about, what we like and how we see things, and hope people enjoy your music.
Yeah, well, that's we boil it. A lot of it comes down to now. There's no excuse. The technology's there, and realistically, you can do it on a shoestring budget to some degree.
Yeah.
Like if you really want to, you can work it out to do it on a shoestring budget. You might not get the best quality, but it's a great start to at least
Yeah.
know if you want to do it. You'd rather spend $500 than spend $5,000 and realize that you don't want to do it.
Yeah, and look, I think a lot of things is in regards to the way we write music now is, we were sort of that in old school sort of mentality is like, okay, you've got to write 5 songs, you've got to go track 5 songs, and then you've got to get to it. But we've all got jobs, we've all got lives, and then we get to we've had issues where we've recorded drums for a song, we've gotten around to record it, and the song simply just wasn't good enough. And for us, we were just like, look, this we've already got these other songs now that are killer, but now we're getting into the studio, it's going to cost us this for something we liked, however it's not the best representation of where the band is right now. And we were like, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to just focus on one song. We're going to have the other ones in the loop, but record that, make sure we get that through, and then just go through, release it like a series of singles, but then consolidate it as an EP. And yeah, man, it's more what works for your band and for your group and who you're working with. And just at the moment, like, we're just super happy that we can actually like focus like a lot more on one song at a time and then be moving on to the next part.
Yeah. One part about it is also because of the changing landscape in the industry these days is you can sit there and drop a 5-song EP before you've done anything. 1 to 2 of those songs are actually going to get listened to. So, really to make the best out of what you've created, we're definitely finding the whole single releases works in a better format for us. And then, the whole compiling them together is just simply for the sake of a actual physical release. Something that we've all dreamed about and things like that. And the thing is, a lot of bands are actually moving onto that sort of format. One of the biggest and most recent examples of that would be Falling in Reverse's last album. They've been dropping singles for the last 2 years from that. And, making sure they released some actual legitimate bangers, and then turned around and said, right, now it's time to put it out as an album. And they dropped the vinyl, and, it's done quite well for them on as far as an actual physical sales success scale goes. And part of the reason why it worked, though, is, like, of the 12 songs, 8 of them had already been released before they announced the album. And then 2 of them came out just before the album, and the other 2 have come out since the album with videos and everything like that. So, it's almost down to also the importance. If you, look, these days you can't actually write an album with heaps of fat on it. And, you look back at a lot of the older albums that come out, you have half a good album and the rest of the album would be filler. Yeah. Whereas today you can't really get away with that, because even Slipknot have commented to it in the last couple of years as well. When they dropped their last album, they're actually toying with the idea of going to just a single-spaced release schedule now.
Release program, man. 100%.
Well, yeah, but the problem they had is they're like, right, we put out these couple of singles, now we put out the album. Nobody's listening to the rest of the album, because all they want to do is listen to those 2-3 songs that we've already released. So, yeah, I think you'll find a lot more bands coming up. It will definitely start going in that drip feed format to eventually compile into an album.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great marketing as well. That way, you don't get any fat.
Yeah, and you kind of
you drop a single. If it does well, that goes on the album.
There's constantly something new coming out. The only thing I have with it is, like, if you're going to release 8 songs of a 12-song album, before you even announce the album, and then 2 more of those tracks are going to come out on their own before the album's released, why am I going to bother with the album? I've already heard everything. That's my thinking about it. I'm like, to me, that feels like trying to have the best of both worlds, which I don't know for a non-established band. If you're an established band already that has a following, that's one thing, right? Like you can sell signed CDs or you can sell vinyls as like a merch thing or whatever, and you could like this. You've already got an audience that's going to go out and do all that stuff. I'm looking at, I'm thinking from like bands that are smaller and trying to get it going. You literally may as well just go, let's record a bunch of songs and then just release them as singles, new song every couple of months. 6 songs will get you a year. You know what I mean? At that kind of rate. And then you can always got like, hey, this is like a single launch show for this. We're launching a brand new single at this one, blah, blah, blah. First time you can hear it, we're going to drop the song out. And then you do like little teasers in the promo going up to it. And then 2 months later, you're on that same cycle and you just you can keep doing that. You keep that hype train going, which keeps the algorithm happy because you've always got new stuff coming and it's like a whole thing. But speaking of new stuff, you guys were in the studio last weekend recording a little bit of something.
Fuck, a little bit, a little bit.
And you gave us a little cheeky preview on that earlier today before we started recording here. That's fucking dope. Holy shit. Like that is like, and that's the unmixed one. So that's like it's gonna sound even better once it actually drops.
Oh shit, that's the unmixed one.
Yep.
Yeah,
no.
But
because man,
it's pure
compliments on the
metal,
drum sound.
pure metal. That is like just talk about no fat. That is all grunt in that. Holy shit!
Kicks you in the face from the very start. I love that shit.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, dude.
We're pretty proud of it. We all kind of went off leash a little bit on it, and got to do some stuff that we haven't really. Stuff we've wanted to do or stuff we've done live. But, we've always been a little bit more restrained in the studio. And, like, especially for me vocally, I definitely jumped out of my box on this one and started really bringing a lot more of what I put in live into what we do in the studio. I'm not going to lie, in the past I've kind of played it safe a little bit and, found a good tone on that particular day and just kind of stayed in it. Whereas with this latest session and the latest song, I'm kind of like, you know what? Let's add some flavor to that. Let's just chuck a bit of this there and a bit of that there. And it is probably the most vocally, it's the release I'm most proud of that I think I've ever actually done.
Well, that's so important. I mean, speaking as from like, I have limited experience as production and recording side of stuff, but something that to me has consistently been a factor with bands on like a more local level, right? Is live. They go so fucking hard. They go off. They're having so much fun. They got so much energy on stage. They're doing all this stuff, and then you get the recordings, and they just don't capture it. It just doesn't capture the life and the energy and the excitement that you get when you see them live. And look, yes, there should always be a difference between live and studio. I don't go to a concert to hear exactly what's recorded in the studio, right? But I think there's an energy about it that a lot of bands fail to capture in their recordings. And I genuinely think that lets them down a lot, because if you're then not seeing this band live and you're only, your introduction to them is the recorded version, you're getting like a muted version of it. And I think that, that can be, a risk of, like you say, kind of like you've heard like playing it safe a little bit before. I feel like that can be a potential outcome of taking that approach with it. So I think especially for metal, where the whole idea is, like that it is very intense. I think it's a matter of, working with your producers and the people that are recording your stuff to let yourself off the leash with it. Doing stuff like, okay, I've seen people talk about the difference between recording guitar and bass parts, sat down in a chair versus stood up how you would be on stage, and that can be different because your physicality is different with the performance, right? And I guess for singers it's a little different because like standing versus sitting, you can get different control over your diaphragm and do different things and whatever. But to capture that energy, I think is so challenging but is incredibly important, and it makes a huge difference between tracks that are good, so functionally good songs, but aren't going to inspire you to go and see a band live versus, like, I mean, the mix that we got through, like we said, that sounds incredible already.
Yeah.
And that, if I hear that sort of mix, if I hear a song sounding like that, that makes me want to see a band live.
Cheers, dude. I think a
So
lot of that also comes from the preparation, in the fact that, going into the studio, just making sure you're putting the time in. So that means when you're going in there, you can dig in hard. You're not trying to figure out where the click track is. And yeah, spending that sort of, time, because 100% is like, you may only get one chance for a person to listen to your song. So you want to make sure that that's going to be a great representation of, what you're doing. So, put the time in. If you're going in there and then, you're going some light picking and everything because you're still trying to figure out where the metronome is, you're still just trying to figure out, your string skipping and how to actually get there. Put that time in so then you can actually go in there and dig in and have fun with it. And I think that's probably because, going into the studio can be very, very stressful. As soon as that red light comes on,
Yeah,
man, and you hear absolutely everything, but it's about going in there and putting that time to know what you need to work on before you actually go in there. And look, man, I'm a rhythm guitarist, and like I can't solo or anything like that, but me and Wade have this the bass player have this little analogy. We call ourselves the sled dogs. It's called just dig in tight and pull weight. And so you just got to get in there, you got to get in heavy, you got to get in groove, you got to stick to that kick drum. And as long as you stay tight to that, you can be a little bit more free and then actually perform.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that description, actually. I might steal that if that's all right.
It's really good.
Yeah, sled dogs. Woo-hoo.
But that's it.
yeah.
And there's like, it's also the little things of when when you're familiar enough with a song that it's become beyond the point of having to consciously think about what you're doing and you're just doing it. That's important. And also the little nuances and little bits that you might do, like that's right. Like I've gone through with Skunkbone, the first Skunkbone album that we did, right? Like I was still writing my bass parts as we were recording things. Like I didn't have a lot of time. We wanted to get that in. We wanted to get it out, released and everything. So like a lot of the bass tracks, I was writing them as I was trying to do like my sessions for those. And it was granted it was here, we had the time to fuck around, like I was producing the whole thing. So like we weren't on a budget, that we were limited time frame and everything, but we wanted to get it done and get it released. And so my bass parts on that first album are very, like they're fun and there's some cool stuff in there, I think, but it's just the same bits each time. I'm not doing a lot of, I've not got a lot of flair on them. I've not got any of the kind of little extra bits that I would do live after I've been playing the songs for a couple of years. So, and I'm not saying you got to play the songs for a couple of years before you go into the studio for them, but like it's about putting the work and the time in to play around with those little ideas and little nuances and be like, okay, so in the second verse here, I'm going to put this little like flair, little flourish in here or something, or just this little extra bit here and there to add that little bit of spice and flavor to it, just to make it interesting for people, even if they don't understand why, even if the layperson doesn't understand exactly what's going on, they just catch like, oh, that sounded a little bit different. Like that sounded a little bit more, that was a little interesting there because it was slightly different from the first time around. And stuff like that matters to the layperson, whether they, like I said, whether they understand the reason or not. And it matters to musicians because musicians pick up on that sort of thing. And, there's a whole other debate to be had about, focus, whether you should worry about making music for musicians or for the layperson. But, and everyone's going to want to come down on different sides of that. But
first and foremost, you should be making it for yourself, and then let it be decided after that.
Yes. But I'm just talking from the production side of, okay, like, whose opinion are we going to worry about with this coming out after the fact? Like, do we want to? Are we making music for musicians, or are we making music for the layperson?
Yeah,
And-
like it'd be a difference if someone walked up to you on the street and went, "Your song sucks." But if someone of credibility came up and went, "Man, your song sucks," you'd be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that kind of hurt."
It's interesting. We've got like some pretty hard and fast sort of stuff that we have with our band is like whenever we're writing parts, like we're very honest and open with each other. And we're also very open to criticism. Now, people hear criticism and they think it as a bad thing, but it's really having the difference between task criticisms and personal criticisms. It's saying, well, I don't think, I think this part sucks. I'm not saying that you suck. And also, I think that you can do better. And also, if you're bringing in something, say, this is what I'm thinking. And then also listening back to your songs with a critical ear and be like, well, when do I get bored? So if I'm sitting there and I'm like, far out, I'm on a spaceship right now. Well, how can I stop that from happening? And as well as that sort of like the band room test. If 4 out of 5 people think that it can do better, well then as an audience, there's probably going to be one person who likes it compared to 5 people who are just like, eh. So, and we always like generally go to that sort of rule. And look, I think as well is like me and Tim being brothers, probably, it's a good thing because we've probably had honest and open conversations with each other our entire lives. And, we're more than willing to, I don't know, Timmy, I'd say challenge each other quite, quite regularly.
I'm calling you a fuckhead any day.
Yeah, because, well, and this is the thing is like, as much as we will be like, we think it can do better.
It doesn't even have to be about a song. I'll just do that. That's how I say hello.
Oh no, we rip on each other. Like it was actually interesting. So me and the bass player have been in the band for 2 years now, and I've known the bass player and been in a band with him since we were probably. Yeah, it's almost, coming on 2 years. And so him and me have been in bands since we're probably about 16, 17. We're both 40 now. So we've been hanging shit on each other for so long. And then coming into the band, and I think Glenn and Kyle were just like, whoa, band practice has changed quite a fair bit now. There's a whole bunch of, a whole bunch of energy here that wasn't there before. And look, with this new release, Ouroboros, like, I'm really, really proud of it because it's the first one that we've released that, me and Wade have actually had input with these songs. So, it's,
full writing input.
Full writing input.
Let's just put some actual perspective on that. Because Brendan and Wade actually had a fair bit of input on. Brendan's not giving himself enough credit there. Those guys actually really, really brought a lot to the message and mark my words. They filled in a lot of gaps that weren't there. They filled in a lot of gaps. There was some gaping holes in those songs there before they came in. And they may not have written the core part of those songs to begin with, but what they brought to the table once they joined the table completely changed those songs and made them much better, solid songs.
That's
Brendan,
awesome.
you need to start giving yourself more credit for that, man.
That's where the Sled Dogs came in. So Mark My Words actually came up because Glenn came in with this absolute killer beat. Like the verse beat is just absolutely killer. And I actually came in originally on bass. And there was one of the first songs I was sitting there learning with him, and I'm like listening to the drummer, and I'm just like, dude, you got beats, man. This is absolutely killer. And it was like, oh, just play what the guitar's playing. I'm like, nah, man, I want to go there. That's where I want to be because that is so like, that's tough as. And then the guitarist who we were working with at the time was just like, nah, not doing that. And okay, well, let's record it. Let's see how that goes, and let's have some options. And it just ended up with me being on guitar, and then Wade coming in and just been like, yeah, guys, like, listen to this. And everyone like was like, far out. That's, that was the low hanging fruit that was there for that particular song. And yeah, man, it was, and that's where I think, the Sled Dogs were born. We were just like, man, let's just sit in there and dig in and pull some weight.
I love it.
Well, You do, and that's the thing. You
Yeah.
don't have
As
to
I
be.
said, Brendan often forgets about that.
You don't need to be a baker to know what good bread is. Do you know what I mean? So if you're sitting there and you know that you can actually bring a little bit of something to the table to add, and it works, there's nothing worse than when people just shut shit down without trying.
100%.
And you don't
Like,
need to
I cannot
reinvent the wheel. You don't need to
stand that.
reinvent the wheel. Sometimes you get someone into a band and there's existing material, and this is what I've found. Like when I've joined a band that's got existing material already, I've always had the approach of, okay, I'll ask because I'm like, obviously you like me, you brought me in for a reason, you've seen what I've done in previous bands. Do you want me to play it as written, or do you want my flavor on it? You know, and almost invariably there'll be like, because I'll say like, look, I'm open to whatever. Like if you are happy for me to try my flavor, and then you're like, oh, actually we prefer it the other way, I'm cool to do that. You know, like I got no harms with that, because especially where there's already material. People have, you know, an emotional attachment to that. They have a sense of ownership on that. And I don't want to come in and take that away from anybody. You know, I never want to come in and be like, all right, I'm the bass player now, so I'm playing bass the way I want to play bass. And, you know, fuck you if you don't like it. Like, you're part of a unit. You got to work together on it, right? With that said, when I joined Acid Nymph, I came in and I had, you know, a bunch of ideas about material, and I sort of was like, okay, we'll try this. And something that I infuse into my playing a fair bit is like transitional notes. So like if it's going from, you know, like right, you know, like right, if it's riffy, obviously there's riffiness to it there. But if it's more like sitting on power chords, moving around and stuff, I'll often employ, you know, transitional notes in between the root notes of the power chords that we're going to, as I'm moving between them, to help sort of feels like it's kind of you know, smoothly moving the song in that direction. Or, you know, I might say, oh, I like the bit here, but I want to try like a bit more flair on that or something. And, you know, like that, it kind of come in and put my own flavor on top of what's already there, which, you know, often is like, it's really good stuff. It's great stuff. And I'm not trying to, like I said, not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going, look, I come to the table, and when I'm cooking there's certain spices I like to cook with, right? Let me just try sprinkling those on the stuff that's already there and see how that sounds. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But as long as you can have those open conversations about it, that's what's important. And it's like anything else. Communication is key. Realizing it's not all about yourself is key. Especially, trust me, as a bass player, I know damn well it's not all about myself. But there's just there's just a degree of, what's the word I'm looking for? That you have to be delicate, I think, especially if you're working with existing material. But you're right, trying it is what's key. You know, you have to be open to trying stuff, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The amount of times I've tried stuff and said, look, can we just try doing it this way? And it doesn't work all the time. No one's going to have it work all the time. But you have to be open to trying this stuff, because otherwise you just don't know. You could have a golden idea that is just being thrown to the wayside.
Yeah. Well, we had that probably starting at the beginning of this year. So up until this year, the old songs were played on 6 strings and the new songs were played on 7 strings. And it was like a completely different band. Like the second part of our set, when we transitioned over to 7 strings, it was like, well, like it was confusing in my opinion. It was like, well, you know, what are we? Do we cut all the material, or do we move them over to 7s and like go from drop B to drop A? Now we don't actually. I think there's only maybe 1 or 2 of the old songs that are actually in the set, because we've replaced them with all new music. But it was like, you know, and I'll give it to the guys, the existing guys. It was like, well, this, it makes it sound a lot more darker. Sonically, this sounds different. But then we moved one of our older tracks, 2020, over to 7 strings, and it sounds so good. Like, it is so brutal. And yeah, it was just like, well. And also, as a guitarist, I just got sick and tired of bringing 2 guitars everywhere. So one, and like you were just carrying around all this stuff. Like, you know, Wade had a 5 string and and a 4 string. I had a 6 and a 7.
I always bring 2 anyway, because I can't stand the idea of like having to like a string breaking and then I've got to restring mid set or whatever. I always have two so that I got the spare, and I hate that I can't mentally let myself not do that.
Dude, I'm 100% with you on that one. Our latest single, well, not the one that's coming out, Negative, the one that's been recently released, that's actually tuned down to, so it's drop A, so rather than having the E, that's tuned down to D, and that's what the other guitarist plays. Then, because I played Floyd Roses, they're locked in.
Oh,
So I'm just like, fire. I had to bring 3 guitars. So 1 guitar for 1 song. And I'm like, this is just absolutely ridiculous. Especially when you're traveling, it's like, no, eventually I was just like, oh, well, I can just, I can just bar this and just play it around it. But then we actually ended up going and I ended up going in and rewriting the entire part of that and saying, well, okay, rather than just playing exactly what the other guitarist is playing, I'm going to go in and I'm going to write a completely different section. I wrote it, recorded it, and I was like, hey guys, this is what I'm thinking. This is where I'm thinking it's going to go. What are all your thoughts? Because there was a bit of pushback like, oh no, I like it this way. But then, like what you said previously, it was like, well, come to me with an answer. I'm like, I'm not just going to tell you, I'm going to show you. Like, this is how I think it sounds, and I think this is where potentially the song could go. And then that spiked some other ideas for some other different parts. And then it, like, you know, Timmy heard it and he was just like, man, I'm going to redo the vocals on this because, like, I really love where this is going. And then,
yeah, mad.
like, that's where that song went from where it originally was to where it ended up being recorded. And, like, we're all super proud of it.
Great. And you should be. It's an important step to be able to take. And I mean, at the moment, there's a band I'm working with that, you know, there's some material in a few different tunings, which is, you know, they want to keep songs in certain tunings. So I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. So there's some stuff in drop D, there's some in drop C and some in drop A. And I'm like, motherfuckers, why do you have to make my life so complicated? But what I'm doing is, I mean, some of the songs that are in drop D, I'm actually, because I didn't know that they were in drop D. I've just like, they said initially, yep, most of our stuff's in drop C. Cool. So I grabbed my bass in drop C, and that's what I've been working with, trying to figure some things out. And then when we kind of got to jamming on stuff, they were like, all right, yeah, just let me grab my drop D for this one. I'm like, wait, that one's in drop D? So like the parts I've written are in drop C, and it allows me to do something a bit different. Like my lowest note is now, you know, instead of just being an octave lower than that low, the open, you know, tuned down D string, my lowest note is now a step below that. And so I can do some of those transitional things, or if they're going to, you know, the 7th before they resolve back up to the root note, I can go down to go to that 7th and then come back up to the root note, whereas they're going up to it, which is like, it creates a different dynamic and interplay between the bass and guitar. And so, like, it's going to be a thing because now, like, the set lists are going to be there, and I'm going to have a list of what tuning is the song actually in, and which of my basses am I actually going to use for it. But I've taken, what I've also done is I've grabbed my 5-string, and that's now, or one of my 5 strings, and that's in, instead of just having like a bass in drop D and then a bass in drop A, I've taken one of my 5 strings and I've gone A, D, A, D, G. So now I'm like, cool. So the drop D stuff, I'm like, and so it does mean that I'm sort of working in a non-standard tuning in some instances there. But it just means like, it's muscle memory, learning where the song is on that particular instrument and working with it that way. But, and I will admit it's going to make for some complicated set lists because we're going to have to think about who's switching where and how to minimize like how much jumping around of different instruments there's going to be. But I think it will, you know, it's ultimately a bit more fun because I can like utilize a lot more different spaces with these things, and it just gets play around with different vibes and different, you know, sort of different energies to the songs because it brings different energies to it as well when you're playing around with different tunings there. So.
Dude, 100%. How much can that, like, you know, you're sitting there, you're jamming on a song and you're just like, just difference between like tunings and tempo. Like you can be sitting there, you can have this sort of demo, you're not really too sure if it's cool or not. And you're like, well, you know, and that's also the thing with technology is you can actually speed the entire song up by, by, you know, 10 beats per minute and just like, bang, that's where that is. Because yeah, we've done that on a few of our releases, like on the new one that's coming up. The second verse, that was originally going to be the exact same as the first verse, and I'm like, nah, let's fucking put it as a breakdown. Let's get fucking tough on it. And yeah, it was just something that we were just like we're fucking around with, and we're like, okay, well, we even like we were playing around where we slowed down the tempo right down, and we're like, oh, it sort of leads, doesn't have the energy back into it or like pull into it, and then even just like playing around with like having discussions with the drummer as well was like, okay, in this verse we want to have you slightly sitting in front of the beat to create a bit more angst on the punk beat. And we're like, yeah dude, that sounds like so much more punchier and so much more attackier, and then when you come back into the chorus, drops it down, has a bit more hard hitting. So I think that's like some of the funnest things, and that's what I really enjoy about doing this sort of stuff is like really sitting there and just being like, how can I make this cool and rad?
Yeah, I mean, when the songs are coming out that good, the rest of it is production.
Yeah.
When you're writing songs at this caliber, you have time to work on that extra stuff.
Yes.
And that's the difference between a good band and a great band.
Yeah. Cheers.
True.
Yeah, dude.
So let's go back in time a few weeks to one hell of a party and talk a little bit about Metal to the Max.
Dude, what an absolute showcase of just Australian
weekend.
Like
Weekend.
Yeah,
far out. Yeah, so we got in there on the Friday and we left on the Monday. Yeah, dude, the first day of all the massive dust storm that just came in and just wrecked everyone's day. That was, I still reckon I've got dust all over, so like some of my pedals and all that sort of stuff. It's still coming up, but yeah, man, that was absolutely phenomenal. Got a fair bit of South Australian representation in Sons of Erebus, Broken Loose, Hidden Intent, just absolutely killing it. Flaming Wreckage, one of my favourite bands from New South Wales. They're New South. And then Suffers as well. Like, man, that was just so good. Like, what an insane what an insane weekend.
it was wild. I mean, I loved the opportunity to check out so much stuff from South Australia because we East Coast, like we kind of don't get as much. Like, it's a bit easier for us to keep tabs on what's happening in Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, like kind of across that than necessarily than it is to keep up with what's happening in Adelaide. But I think it kind of is just that's like a loss. If you're watching this or listening to this and you're into metal and you kind of you're mainly on the East Coast and you're not really sure what's going on in the Adelaide scene, like check it out for sure. Like there is so many killer bands out of there. And
hit up our socials. We're always given, especially for our stories. Anytime somebody else from the Adelaide, area, any of the other local bands release something that's cool, we literally just pop it straight into our stories because it's the only way you can really spread word and really grow the community.
Yeah,
and we got one down here.
It's crazy, and I mean, we were just so floored. Like every band just absolutely killed it. Every band was so good up there. Like we were excited for people to see the bands that we did know from Sydney and Melbourne that we were already familiar with because we knew they were going to do great. Like you mentioned Flaming Wreckage earlier, like Kyle and I both have been fans of those guys since they were starting out. I remember seeing them early on. I don't know exactly how early, but I'm pretty sure it was in sort of like the first year or two of them being a thing. Like I can remember seeing them play shows and immediately I was like, those guys are going places. They've got it. They've got whatever it is, they've got it. And now, they've been around for so long now and they've really, shone through and been able to prove that they are, the kind of band that deserves to be, to have that sort of success and to be representing Australia on a global stage when it comes to metal. So like, and obviously Anton Amasia, which Kyle has seen many, many times, good friends of ours.
They're good friends of ours.
My first time seeing them live actually was at Metal to the Max because I haven't seen them at
that's great
thing. But you know, and even bands like Witchgrinder that kind of are already kind of known across Australia, but have just always put on a great show. They've always, you know, everyone knows that they're going to put on a great show, and they brought it. You know, they really brought it. Everyone really stepped up and put on an amazing performances all around across both days. You know, and it's one of those things where like so many connections now, like obviously people meeting people from other bands that are, you know, from different cities. So cool. Now you got connections in those cities. You can go and play those cities a bit more easily, a bit more readily now. You know, you've got people you can reach out to. Even if you don't play with those bands, they can point you in the direction of people that you might want to talk to, right? And events like this are so important because they promote that sense of us all having to work together and support each other and help each other to make these events special, which is the whole reason that we got on board with the event in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, you know, again, once more, shout out to Ash and Tomo and Lead Heavy and all of those guys that were behind it, because, you know, it was an amazing undertaking. It was a big swing. You know, let's hope that the next one is even more successful and it can carry on and continue to be an annual thing. Because, I mean, look, I know there's plans for it to happen again next year. I know that if it does happen, we'll be there. For sure, we'll absolutely be out there again, and just we'll do the same thing. We're going to be having a great time interviewing everybody, trying to promote it and get the word about all these amazing bands out to everyone that follows our channel, because we've started to gain a bit more of an international following as well. Thanks to some of the reaction videos we've been doing, we got people that sort of watch from various corners of the world now. We've had people from, you know, overseas reach out to us to do like reactions to their songs as well. So we're like, it's reaching there, you know what I mean? And
which is the whole point, which is the exact reason why we started going down that path.
And for us to be able to take, not just, you know, take those international bands that reach out to us and present their stuff to our Australian audience, but to take all of the Australian bands that we're so fond of and show them to the international audience is amazing. Because it's like, guys, like, the talent's here. It's here. And Aussie bands just, they do it. There's an authenticity to it. There's a realness about it that, you know, is just so inspiring. And like, Kyle doesn't play in bands anymore, at least for now.
No.
Who knows if that's going to change?
Yeah, you never know.
You know, I still do it, but who knows for how long. But this is a way we can just kind of keep pushing that and keep continuing on and sharing that and engaging in that. So,
yeah, I've gone into the space of filming bands now, so I try and film them and make them Instagram clips, so they have, so they just have stuff to put up at their shows and stuff like that. That's how I try and keep myself involved and busy in the scene.
Dude, I feel like such a boomer coming into this, because like I see joining those left behind was a bit of me coming out of retirement. Because like I was saying, me and Wade were playing in bands. Oh wow, ever since we were probably about 17 till we were probably about 28, 29 is when our old band broke up, and then him and me joined some other bands. And Timmy's always been in the scene and always been doing music for forever. And I think far out, only up until probably about 2 years ago. So there was probably a hiatus, from live bands and all that sort of stuff for almost 8 years. So the landscape moved so much in that time. So, I still remember just going out, handing out flyers, handing out CDs, like Fridays and Saturdays, just trying to get people to shows. And just even when broadband was coming out in South Australia and MySpace was coming out, and you could actually, hear and talk to other bands in other states and everything like that. To where it is now, in the fact that we've got platforms like this where you can go find and chat to like cool people in other states, and then just link in and have the music that you're so proud of and want to get out there, and hopefully other people will like it. And just it's such a different space, and I feel like we're pretty lucky. I mean, we always go on and we talk about I think the big thing at the moment is the money's gone out of music, because physical releases aren't there anymore. Streaming platforms are taking too big of a slice of the pie. There's always that sort of argument going out there, but I think it's fantastic because you've got an opportunity to get your music out to such a large group of people better than any other time in history.
Well, it's true. It used to be the whole thing of we're never gonna get a. Oh, sorry, go Timmy.
On one hand, it's never been easier to get your music out there, but on the other hand, it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's harder to be seen.
Yes.
It's harder
move
to be
anywhere
seen.
with it, so to speak, because it's never been easier.
Yeah.
Which means there's a lot more people out there doing it.
Yeah.
And it's harder to get noticed. Like it used to be, you could be a very good band and get some sort of recognition or some notice or anything like that. Now it's not. You don't even need to be a good band. You just have to know how to push yourself.
Yeah.
On social media.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those double-edged swords. Yeah, and the thing is, though, is to be as on social stuff as you almost need to be is almost a full-time job in itself.
Yeah,
it is. It is.
We're no longer just musicians and bands anymore. We have to be content creators and playlist curators, and I mean, the other thing is, it's also let a whole bunch of sharks into the world of music that weren't there before.
There's always sharks.
Oh yeah, but I mean, now it's so easy for them as well, though.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times per week we will get messages from scammers under the guise that they're doing music promotion or a record label or PR reps and things like that is just phenomenal to the point where it's like, you know what? Why is somebody over in the country you say you're from even interested in a little bit when why would we be interested in working with you when you know nothing about our market? And, the chances are we're never going to end up in the country that you're in playing shows. But here you are asking for huge amounts of money to provide a service that, in all reality, we can do ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, though, is you can tell who's legit and who's not just simply by their answers. Because the scammers will just keep going around in circles. And it's one thing that bands need to be really, really wary of, is because there's way more of those than what there are legitimate people these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, you hit 1,000 people, you only need one or two to say yes and pay you the money.
Yeah.
Well, it's the whole principle of like phone scamming. Small bands are just another vulnerable group, and just as vulnerable as, say, your parents and things like that, because they just don't know, and they don't know who's legitimate and who's not. And some of them actually do a really good job of posing as actual legitimate people and entities.
Yeah.
But as I said, they love to give the run around. They go around in circles and things like that. And they are probably one of the things that's hurting the industry a lot more now than ever.
Actually, I never took that into consideration.
Well, it's happened a bit in the Brisbane.
It's one of those trust no one.
Sorry, I was in the Brisbane like metal and rock groups at the moment. There's like this person that's been sort of, and again, I don't know if it's like a physical person doing it, if it's like a bot account or whatever, but like it's going into all these, like Brisbane metal groups, Brisbane alternative music, Brisbane rock and roll, whatever, and they're posting like, oh hey, like we curate these like YouTube channels and playlists and stuff. We can get millions of views on all of your things, blah, blah, blah. Here's the link to tell us if you're interested. And thankfully, thankfully people are pretty wise to the game, and most of the comments prior to these posts getting deleted by the admins are link us your playlists then. Like link us, if you're going to put a post that says, hey, if we have all of this success, if you want to get on our playlists and get a share of the success for yourself, reach out to us here, but not linking the playlists to, which should be, you've already put a link, so you clearly know how to include a link in the post. Just add another link and go, here is one of our playlists to show you what we can do for you. But they don't do that. They never do that. And thankfully people are pretty wise to it, but you do have to be very, very careful of it.
Yeah,
Oh, man, I
another
reckon
one
I
of
got
the
stung on one of those, hey?
probably. Well, one of the worst ones is, and it keeps popping up in a lot of the metalcore groups and metal groups and things like that, the international ones, that kind of service the whole world, is people posing as they're doing playlists and they're basically picking music for college radio in the US. To the point now where as soon as you see the words college radio, you're just like, nope. Because that was a very, very common one for probably a good 8 months. And the thing is you sit there and pop a comment in, and then all of a sudden they're like, all right, well, email me with your information of this. And it's like, hang on. And then I still remember that I fell for it 1 or 2 times where I would sit there and email them. And then all of a sudden it's like, right, we want this and we want that. It's like, dang, we need the passwords and the logins to your accounts and stuff. And it's like, yeah, no, you don't. And, luckily enough, I was savvy enough to not actually fall for it beyond that point. But they were getting, absolute jackals. It's like,
it's when you say my password's Nanya.
They're really just predators, aren't they, man? Like, because they're just capitalizing on people who are, really, really passionate, and the only thing that their only crime is having more people wanting to hear their music and get their music out there and showcase something that they're really passionate about. So,
yeah,
man, I don't know, like I had this the first real time that's actually like really thought to me, but yeah, far out, nothing but a bunch of predators. Hey,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and look, it happens in the streaming space too.
Yeah.
Where you get just people trying to hustle you down all the time, trying to solicit their bloody their graphic design thing and this and that, and we can help you edit this and get you thousands more viewers. We've hit it, and we're just like, no.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we don't want to. We had. I mean, look, we've had a few messages from people trying to do similar stuff, legit. And they're like, "Hey, look, we like your videos, but we think they could better for more dynamic editing, blah blah blah." So I said, "All right, well, here's one of our videos that we've already posted. Like, here's the raw stuff for it. Here's a link to a Google Drive. There's all the raw bits and pieces. You show us what you would do. Because I'm not just gonna let you manage my fucking account out of the gate. I'm not going to give you our login to our fucking account so you can grab our shit and then steal our goddamn channel. Like, it's just not happening.
Re-edit the stuff to make it look,
if you want to edit
viewers
stuff for us, cool. Like, we can't pay you, but here's the videos that you can edit, and then you can put the finished one on a fucking Google Drive, and I'll download it, and then I'll upload it to the channel. Like, and as soon as you start talking like that, it's like, oh no, I don't have. Like, I sent him the thing. It was like one of our reaction videos, I think, and I sent it. Was it a reaction? I don't know. It might have been a section of a podcast or something. But I sent it, and he's like, "Oh, so here's a sample of what we do," and it was like a 30-second clip, and it was all the most basic, like, fucking, like the cookie cutter shit that every channel has. And I'm not saying out that we're like spectacular or anything, but ours is fairly basic because what we do is pretty straightforward. Like, we are talking to bands. We're not engaging. We don't need to engage in fucking fancy tactics to keep people's attention, like they're children. And look at the birdie, look at the dynamic editing and things moving around, blah blah blah.
Yeah, we'd like to think our viewers have a bit more.
Yeah, if people like our content, they're going to like it for what it is, you know, and they're going to watch it for what it is. And for those of you that do watch us regularly, thank you very, very much. We
We do
appreciate you
appreciate
guys. We do. But yeah, it's
And there's a
it's
degree
every
of
creative
legitimacy
space.
to it as
Every
well.
creative space has it because, like you say, it's people are passionate about their art and what they're creating, and they want people to see that, and they want people to engage with what they're creating, and it's very easy to take advantage of people like that. And if you're a young band watching this, or a young content creator, and you happen to be watching this, if anyone ever reaches out to you about that kind of stuff, and you're not sure about it, you're uneasy about it, our inbox is open if you want to hit us
Yeah.
up and get some advice. Like, I'm not saying we're experts, but we've been in the game for a while. Not necessarily YouTube. That's only been a couple of years, but we've been doing music for a very, very long time. We're always open to help you vet anything that might be, you know, of a worry. You know, like we want to help out people wherever we can. So,
And the transfer is not that much different. Yeah, good on you guys. Because that's a big thing, you know. Like, I think people have lost the whole thing of if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably fucking is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And and even when you have a look at it, you ask any big band, and you ask them about their first contract they ever signed, and they got signed, but they got the fuck run around on their first one or two contracts.
Yeah.
It wasn't they weren't millionaires on their first one or two. They sold millions of albums, but they weren't millionaires.
I hate to sound like a boomer, but you can't believe everything you read on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to do your reference detective, and you got to do, approach things with sort of a, critical thinking. And look, it really is that sort of catch-22 because, remember when being in a young band and getting a certain level of success at a young age and, you're actually starting to get interest from, I want to record your band. I want to do it for free. Like, I'm a producer, or I'm this and this. And you're just like, this is our shot. Like, this isn't going to come up again. Like, and you truly believe that. And far out, like people, from early on in, I think our first experience in doing a proper recording is the guy pinched the masters and all that sort of stuff. Didn't give us any of the like recordings or anything like that. That was far out an old demo from back in the day. And I still think a couple of those songs I would have loved to hear recorded, and I'd love to have a copy of it because it was something that you wrote that meant something really, a lot to you at that particular point in life. But it's interesting because that person, people just turn around and be like, oh, I'll do this for free. And then they're like, oh, $300-$500. And you're like, man, dude, we're all 18 and we're all working at fast food. Like, we're trying to pay for like strings and get petrol to go to the next show. Like, if you actually like told us that this was actually going to be paid for, like, we would be keen, but we just don't have the money for it right now. And then it just leaves that sort of like bitter taste in your mouth. It's like, well, come on, man. So like, we give you, $300, and what? Then you're going to want another $300? Like, how does this?
Yeah,
where
that's
does
how
this
ransom.
end?
That's generally how ransom works.
Yeah.
It's
You know, and
extortion.
that's literally what happened. When you think about it, like that's literally, oh, come in. I did the recording for free. You got to buy your masters off me now. That's what he did.
It's how
that
a
is
lot
exactly what he did.
It's how a lot of photography studios get people as well. Like they'll, you'll win a free. They'll give you like a free photo shoot, or the photo shoot itself is discounted and very, very cheap, or free. And then to actually get the photos, all of a sudden it's like $1,500 because that's where
There was an old
that's where they get you.
photography studio in Adelaide that was the absolute masters and kings of that, called Studio 2000.
We had one of them in Sydney that used to do that shit too.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
pretty
sure that was the
standard.
same company.
Yeah, it probably was. I remember when they went down, what was it, early 2010s? Like, and I mean, they had operated for 30 or 40 years before that point under the same business model. And it wasn't until the consumers started to get wise to it and be like, hang on, what? That the ACCC finally stepped in and shut them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of Google reviews. Like eventually you're gonna piss off so many people. They're gonna look you up on Google to go check out your website, and they're They're just going to see you getting hammered.
Yeah.
It's rough, but look, that's where you just got to be aware. You just got to be aware of that stuff. So
Contracts, emails, get everything in writing.
contracts are important, and if you're ever not sure, like I said, we're happy to try and offer some insight on that if you want. Now, you guys have some tasty gigs coming up as well that we want to talk about. So literally, if you're listening to this episode on the day it's released, within 24 hours of it being released, there is a show on the 22nd of November that you'll need to try and get your asses down to. So it's Metal on Murray 4. Is that the one?
No, 6. Number 6 there.
Number 6.
6.
Okay,
Yeah.
shit. Sorry. It's been a while since I did Roman numerals. I must have read the thing wrong. There you go. But 6. Metal on Murray 6. And that's with like Life Pilot, Murderer Crows, a bunch of those rad bands.
That is crazy. Do you know when I was 14, right? And me and my little buddy Kieran were thinking about starting a band. That was going to be our band name, Murder of Crows. That is mental. That is so.
There you go.
Better be good.
And then you've also got one in January as well. I think Brendan was talking about that one. I'm Not a Burden Festival. That one's coming up in January.
Yeah.
With like Freedom and Fear, Storm the Crown, Sons of Erebus. That lineup sounding pretty tasty as well.
Yeah, dude.
It's also for a great cause. So a lot of the bands like us on the day are actually playing gratis, and not charging anything for appearing or anything like that, because the whole intent of the show is to help raise money for support around mental health and awareness, which is a subject I'm very passionate about. And I love the fact that Mikey from Ironjaw and the guys from Love Lost Tattoo Studios, like, this is the second time they've done it. We went to the first one. Me and Brendan did 18 months ago now, and it was an amazing day. They raised a lot of money, which gets used to, gets donated to Beyond Blue and all those sorts of great organisations. And yeah, so they're doing it again. As soon as they asked us to do it, we're like, yeah, done.
Awesome. Yeah,
there was no hesitation about saying yes to that one.
Love being able to do a gig for a good cause. And if you're considering going down to that show and you're one of these people that always tries to get a free entry to gigs, don't be a dickhead and do it for a charity show. Like, I know it seems crazy to have to say that, but I've seen it happen. It's happened at gigs that I've played at where it's been for charity and fundraising. And, it's just not.
If I go to a fundraising show and people ask me to go film, I pay to get into the show.
Yeah.
Dude, nice.
Like, it's just, don't do that shit. You are,
Straight up. You have to be decent about this stuff.
More than anything else.
Yes.
You can go hang out with those people that fucking scrounge off bands.
Now, gentlemen, before we take this home for the podcast and wrap this one up, there is a question that we've been trying to get a bit of an answer to over the last several months. And, we've been asking all of our guests for their opinion on this one. And today is no exception. So you would obviously be aware of the big four of thrash in Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax. We, Kyle and I, being nu metal kids that came up through the late 90s, early 2000s when our interest in heavy music was starting to form, we've been trying to get a bit of a consensus from our guests on the big four of nu metal. Yeah. Now, it's an interesting discussion, and everyone's going to have very, very different opinions. But if we could, from each of you, I would like to get who you consider to be the big four. And now I will clarify. When we say the big four of nu metal, we aren't meaning just bands that would be considered nu metal by today's definition. We're talking about bands that came up through that era and that were kind of all lumped in under the nu metal banner, I guess, at the time, even though they maybe didn't consider themselves to be nu metal. Because as we all know, lots of bands that came through that time, there was just this explosion of diversity, and lots of bands just kind of got lumped under that nu metal banner. Whereas now we wouldn't necessarily consider them to be a nu metal band.
Just to be dramatic, I'll call it the time before the great separation.
So I don't know, whichever of you would like to go first. But if you could please hit us with who you consider to be the big four, for you at least, of the nu metal era.
You go, Timmy.
He's looking at his collection.
Look, I am. Like, I've got some prime examples right here.
Well, maybe while you dig them out, I'll go with my one. So, Fear Factory.
Yep.
Fear Factory. This is actually going to be a really, really hard one. Definitely Fear Factory's in there for me. Korn, absolutely.
Yeah.
Slipknot, yep.
I actually 100% agree with Korn.
Yep. Actually, interesting story about Slipknot is when, I think it was before the album was released, when they had Wait and Bleed, when they came down here and they played Theberton Theatre, Tim was taking photos for DB or Rip It Up magazine, and he got a +1, and I think I was like 14 at the time. Oh, no, you must have been, were you even 18, Tim?
Let's see, 2000. No, I wasn't yet. I was 17. And
So I would have been 15 at the time.
Just before I started working for DB, Mum and Dad got us tickets for Christmas.
Oh, that's right.
I got you into them.
Yeah, you got, yeah. So, yeah.
Because I heard them on a sampler, and I already had the album that actually come out. So I had a copy of that sitting around the house, and you got really into it just like I did.
Yeah. Nice. All right, so hang on.
I still remember the
lost
first
track
one
there.
they
Just some good memories coming through.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you call it? So,
Fear Factory, Slipknot.
Fear Factory, Slipknot.
Korn was the other one you said so far.
Korn.
Oh. This number 4, this one's going to be tied. So, this is what I'm thinking. So, I'm either thinking Cold Chamber. I'm either thinking Limp Bizkit. I don't know if you would dead set call them a nu metal band because they've done so much, but Machine Head.
Mm-hmm.
See, I get into this argument. I will argue their
At the time, they very much
Especially Burning Red.
were doing the nu metal thing.
Well, and the thing is, though, is Burn My Eyes and More Things Change really paved the way.
Yeah.
It's an argument to be had.
Yeah, and
At the end of the day, it's down to your guys' opinion. We can argue. We can. I will go to bat for them. I don't think they're not in my big four, but I'll go and bat for them.
But also, as a guitarist, no one did it better than Rob. 5150. Ibanez TS9. Stick it in front. That iconic tone, man. Like that just paved the way for the 2000s. Like that, everyone was going in for that tone. So.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Man, I'm gonna have to go Ballin' Biscuit. I love Wes.
Cool.
All right, cool.
Yep.
So you're for Fear Factory, Korn, Slipknot, and Limp Bizkit.
Yep.
Right, Timmy.
I would have to say, I mean, Slipknot, just like Brendan, Korn as well. Limp Bizkit and probably the Deftones.
Oh.
I think people, See, Brendan forgot how long the Deftones have actually been around for.
Bro, Deftones. If I could have the surgery, I would have Chino's babies.
Oh, dude. I don't have it here. I've got the original Stephen Carpenter green 2 humbucker next to each other LTD. Found it in a cash converters down at Port Adelaide, mate.
Oh, bro.
And I'm like, I have to buy this. Like, I've been chasing this guitar my entire life.
You can find some gems at Cashies. You can find some gems at Cashies. Like, there's been quite a few times, like probably I think at least 3 instances where, because I'm not the kind of person that normally goes to cash converters, and it's not like anything to do with anything. It's just like most of the time I don't even think about it, right? But there's been a few instances where I've been walking past one and just randomly a voice in my head's gone, you should go in there. And I'll go in and I'll find a gem of some sort. Like I'll find, I think the first time there was like a Schecter Studio 5 all black with the it was the 18 volt, so each pickup was running on 9 on its own. So it was a beast of a sound. It sounds huge. I've since sold it. I wish I hadn't, because it's an incredible bass. Then there was another instance where I found a Schecter Demon 7 string in a Cashies, and then more recently I think it's a 2002 Fender Super Strat. So it's the Strat, but then it's got the bridge pickup is a humbucker. The bridge pickup's a double.
Yeah, the one on top of the other sort of thing.
So it's like one of the, and it's like, it's a beautiful sounding guitar, and like, so sometimes like I've just had really good luck with Cashies finding like just gems, you know, like they're not. Sometimes you just come across them, you know, and they don't always know what they've got, so you can sometimes get a good bargain out of it.
I'll tell you a little story about cash
if anyone's
converters.
got the Louis Vuitton Signature Series for sale in Australia, hit me up. If they got the Stephen Carpenter's Louis Vuitton Signature Series, fucking hit me up.
Dead set. I think one of those actually popped up in Marketplace.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, dude. I saw that. What's it called this morning?
Okay,
I reckon it's that.
Yeah.
All right.
Dangerous day to be a credit card. I've got a little story about cash converters.
Yeah.
So, I think it was it was a band called Wishlist that I was in the early 2000s, and we had just finished up a tour. I think we were either away for 4 or 6 weeks, and coming home in December, I bought a Tarago before. Tarago blew up like driving into Melbourne on the first day, so we limped around on Chemi World for the rest of it. But driving in, came in on my birthday and just absolutely stone broke. So drove back from Sydney, drove straight back into Adelaide, went to work. I was working at Hungry Jack's the next, that morning. So I got home at 12, started at Hungry Jack's at 5 o'clock in the morning. Still had all the gear in the back of the car. So merch, box, guitars, and absolutely everything. I'm walking out there a little bit later, and I saw the side door open, and I'm like, far out. No. I must be still wrecked from the tour. And then I went and looked in the back. Guitar's gone. Oh no. The merch tin was still there with all the cash in it, but the guitars had gone. But they pinched some of the merch that we hadn't actually sold any in South Australia because we hadn't played any gigs with that particular merch drop. On my birthday, calling around all the cash converters, just being like, just wondering. And like, this was a Gibson Studio that was a wine red, and I put in can't remember the locking tuning pegs that I had on there, but it was all like a little bit customized. Then also a Fender Telly, which had been modified to have a a Seymour Duncan Invader to be put in the back. All stolen. So I'm calling around, and they're like, we can't tell you this, and I'm like, all right, gotta change my tact here. So I called up this one particular one, and I was like, hey, I'm in a traveling band, like coming into town, I'm just looking to buy a guitar, like what do you got on hand? And it was like, I really like Gibsons and Fenders, and I really want one for tonight's gig. Oh yeah, mate, we just had something just come in. I'm like, okay, yeah, no worries. What does it look like? He's like, one red and this one's black, and like, I'm like, sick, man, I'm coming down there, let's have a look. So I walked in there, had my laptop with me with all the photos from that night gigs before. And I was like, can you show me these guitars? Yeah, they're here. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, cool, they're mine. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, don't worry, I've already called the police. They're coming down. They're like, how do you know those? I'm like, see this? This is me playing up at, where were we playing? I think we were playing, I can't remember, Next or something. They're like, no, it wasn't Next. It was somewhere on a Saturday night in Sydney, one of the Destroyer Alliance clubs. I can't even remember. And I'm like, yep, check it out. I look sick, don't I? And the cops ended up coming in like, this looks like pretty good evidence. And he's like, how did you find out? It's like, yeah, he was going to sell it to me. He's like, mate, you got to wait 14 days. And
Oh,
I was like,
Wow.
boom. And I'm like, thank you, sir. The other guitarist, the other guitarist had a brand. This is when the Australian dollar was doing really, really well, and he actually imported a telly, and it was sick. Had to go through customs, had to make sure the wood was all treated and everything. Went through that, never saw it again. I still remember calling up the police because the detective who was on the case was going on his rotation for 4 days, and I was like, "Have you guys searched the house, or how do you know it's them?" We've got the video of them actually in the Hungry Jacks. We've got the video of them selling it at the cash converters. Why can't you go down there and do it? And then they didn't go and search the house for like 4 days. That guitar was gone, but then they found some of the merch that a cat was sleeping on. Nothing happened to him. Like, didn't just denied it all. Like, just I think they got done for possession of stolen goods.
And people wonder why, why people don't have faith in the police or the justice system.
yeah.
Like,
It's the legal system. It's not the police. They're only fucking following the Lord of the book, unfortunately. And criminals are wised up now.
yeah,
Aren't they just?
Oh, haven't they just?
yeah. All right. Well. Right. Thank you very, very much for sitting down with us for a nice long chat today, gentlemen. We really, really appreciate that. We're going to have links to all your socials and everything down in the description there. And so if people haven't already followed you from the Metal to the Max interview we put up, they should absolutely go and follow you now off the back of this video. Plenty of amazing stuff. But look, thank you.
That weekend was a blur.
It was so fucking crazy. But yeah, look, thank you again, gentlemen. We really appreciate it. And for those of you who are watching, if you had a great time with us today, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It means a lot, really helps us out. And keep an eye out because on the weekend we're going to have a couple more videos coming with these two crazy motherfuckers right here. Other than that, I have been Raff. He has been Kyle. He's on the other side today. And we'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.
Peace.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We really hope you had a good time. If you did, please consider hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell down there. It helps the channel grow. We are still a fairly young channel and we like to try and grow our audience all over the world. We do also, for those of you who are interested, have a Patreon. It's just a couple of bucks a month. At the moment, you get all the videos early and ad-free, but we are working on ways to increase the value of that and make it a bit more enticing. So don't forget to keep an eye out and check back on what's going on over there. Other than that, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.